Hello and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing my favorite peach Kuchen recipe that, in my opinion, is the best summer cake ever. Peach Kuchen is actually a German dessert, and the word Kuchen just means cake in German. I can't remember exactly where I first saw this recipe, but I know it was in a Jewish cookbook. As you can see, I went to the store to grab a few ingredients that I was missing. By the way, you can actually make this dessert with many different types of fruits, such as nectarines, plums, apricots, apples, pears, strawberries, really any fruit that's in season. I've actually made this recipe multiple times. In fact, here's what it looked like last year when I made it for a church potluck. Everyone loved it, by the way. It was definitely a crowd pleaser. And my favorite part about this recipe is that there's absolutely no custard. It's just fresh fruit and sweet, crispy crust. The first thing to do is take out a stick of unsalted butter to let it soften. I seem to always forget to take out the butter early, so I usually have to use it fresh out of the fridge, which isn't ideal, but this time I remembered. Next, I wipe down the counters and prepare the area, utensils, and ingredients that I need to bake with. After that, I washed my hands and began washing 4 fresh peaches. It's preferable to use ripe peaches. These were a bit green, but honestly, you could hardly tell when the tart was done, and I actually prefer the peaches aren't too mushy. For this recipe, you will need 1 1/4 cups all-purpose flour, 1/2 cup plus 2 tablespoons sugar, 1 tablespoon semolina or cornmeal depending on your preference, 2 teaspoons baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon kosher salt, 1 stick unsalted butter, softened as I mentioned before, 1 large egg, and approximately 2 pounds of whatever fruit you choose to use. In this case, I have 4 peaches. As for utensils and appliances, you may like to use a flour sift, but it's not required. You will also need a mixer with a paddle attachment and an 8 to 10 inch tart pan. Here's a quick pro tip. Put your recipes in plastic sleeve protectors to keep the paper safe from drips and crumbs as you bake. First, I'm going to measure out and sift 1 1/4 cups all-purpose flour directly into the mixing bowl. This is actually the first time I've ever used a flour sift, and I found it to be quite satisfying. But like I said, if you don't have a sift, the recipe tastes good without sifted flour. Next, add 1/2 cup sugar. Only add 1/2 cup because we will use the remaining 2 tablespoons later on. Add 1 tablespoon semolina or cornmeal. I've been using semolina, but I'm sure it would taste good if you used cornmeal instead. Next, I'm going to add baking powder and salt. The recipe calls for 2 teaspoons baking powder and 1/4 teaspoon fine salt. I only had some coarser kosher salt crystals, so I used those instead of fine sea salt, but the cake tasted just as good. Okay, so I actually didn't do it this time, but I would definitely recommend taking a fork and giving the dry ingredients a quick stir before moving on to the next step. It just ensures that all the ingredients are thoroughly mixed. Here, as you can see, I added the softened butter to the dry ingredients. I'm not entirely sure why I was trying to cut the butter into smaller cubes. I guess I thought it would be easier to mix, but anyways, once you add the butter, mix the ingredients together on a low to medium speed using the paddle attachment on your mixer. This is usually about setting 2 through 4 on most mixers, I believe. I recommend starting with a slower speed and gradually increasing so that the flour doesn't fly out of the bowl. Mix until the butter is partially incorporated. Then add 1 large egg and continue to mix, this time on a medium-high speed until the dough forms. This usually takes about 30 to 45 seconds. Here I decided to use the butter wrapper to lightly grease the tart pan. You don't have to, but I just personally like to. Then I removed the dough from the mixer and divided the ball of dough. The goal is to press 2/3 of the dough in the tart pan and set aside the remaining 1/3. I don't know why it was so hard for me to figure out, but in the end, I think I got the ratio near perfect. With your hands, press the 2/3 ball of dough into the tart pan. Try to press it as evenly as possible and only partially up the sides of the pan, since the dough actually rises slightly in the oven. Wrap the remaining third of dough in plastic wrap and place both the tart pan with dough and the remaining dough ball into the fridge to chill for about 15 minutes. While the dough was in the fridge, I preheated the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Then I attempted to pit and slice the peaches into about 1/2 inch wedges. If you're enjoying this video so far, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks so much. After 15 minutes, I took the dough out of the fridge and proceeded to arrange the sliced fruit in the tart. Next, I took the remaining dough ball and divided it as evenly as I could into 8 smaller dough balls. Then, I randomly placed the dough balls on top of the tart. Usually I would round the dough into perfect balls, but this time I decided to just leave them as they were. After that, I took the remaining 2 tablespoons of sugar and sprinkled it evenly all over the tart. Then I was ready to put the tart in the oven, and I baked it for about 35 to 40 minutes. Once I took it out of the oven, I let it cool slightly before taking it out of the pan. You can serve the cake with vanilla ice cream or even labneh whipped cream. It was absolutely delicious. And there you have it, the best summer cake recipe. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. See you next time.